Whoa, keep it steady near the wall. That's good. That's nice. Hello guys and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Today we're gonna go send our first satellite to the moon that's gonna take a permanent stay there and scan the surface of the moon with everything we've got. I put this little rocket together with two solid rocket boosters on the side, ditching them here, and they've got parachutes so I can recover them and get them back. The booster to space also has a parachute here, as you can see, or two parachutes, so this will also work. But I had to go straight up to 30 kilometers and then do this turn, which is very inefficient because I forgot to add fins to it, so it was very top heavy. But the burn worked out quite well. As you can see, I'm trying to get myself into a nice little orbit here. Now here you can see the satellite. The satellite is equipped with 4 solar panels, a comm system that can go from the moon back to Kerbin, and 2 surface scanners. The low emission scanner on the top here, and at the bottom you can see the scanner that's one up that can discover the biomes and can also discover monuments on the planet. So maybe it can discover some sort of special monument where we can land in the future. Then I had to burn this little very low yield engine to get myself into a nice good orbit here. I took too long or I waited too long to start burning, so I needed to burn a little bit up here, but worked quite well. And I set up my antenna here to broadcast back to Kerbin, so I would get a signal once the satellite leaves the orbit confinements of my little omnidirectional system. After that, I set up my maneuver to get myself to about 400 km periaps towards the moon and executed this burn as always here with the sun in the background and the moon in the front. This was just a little burn. Took a little time because I used this very low yield engine, because with how my satellite is configured, this was the most efficient engine that got me the most delta V. As you can see, we've got over 2000 meters left, so that's enough. Then I added one alarm clock for the SOE change and did something else because my first plane was ready here that I could try to start and fly. I already tried this plane a little bit with the simulation mode, so I figured out that I needed 2 of the vertical wings to get it stable, but as it is now, it's very stable, can fly perfectly. The only problem is in landing, because when it lands it takes a long time to brake, because I haven't got any air brakes or any of that. But with 3 engines it's very fast, so it can get us everywhere on Kerbin that we want to go. First up, after start here, I want to take you to the old launch pad. No, not the old launch pad, the island launch pad. That's not the old one where we started earlier in Kerbal, but the island launchpad off the coast here. I did a little bit of science here and sent it back, because every mission should have some kind of purpose. So this was science gathering. And now we are going to the island over there, because there's a little launchpad and runway there, and that I really want to show you. So let's go there. As you can see, we're pretty fast, and let's go 4 times time acceleration here because it takes a while. But as you can see, we nearly hit Mach 1 here. We're at 280 meters to 90 meters per second, so I slowed down a little bit to not get too much speed. And There we can already see it in the background, this little thing here. Maybe in the future with a plane that can land on such short a landing strip, I will try to land there, but for now we can only brush by here at an enormous speed of 320 meters per second. That's Mach 0.9. As you can see, we've got high dynamic pressure as far tells us, but I wanted to do a little bit of science here, then take a second trip around, and after that we're gonna get this thing. I initially wanted to get this thing to the pyramids that are on Kerbin. They are in the west of the Space Center, but unfortunately it's nighttime there at the moment, so this wouldn't be a very good look, and I haven't got any lights on this plane to navigate. So I decided to take a second flyby of the tower on the island, and then we will go to the North Pole with this one. But don't worry, you don't have to watch all of it, because the travel to the North Pole took about half an hour or something like that. So I'm gonna show you this in time accelerated mode. But for now we're gonna make our second approach to the tower here, as you can see. And I'm trying to remember the phrase from Top Gun where he brushed by the tower, something like requesting a fly. I don't know Maverick's phrase anymore. It was just him requesting a flyby, but the answer is memorable. The answer was negative Ghost Rider. The pattern is full, but we, like Maverick, don't listen to that and just brush by the tower, but with a little bit more margin for error here. But at this speed they definitely also can feel that and see that. There we go, and we brushed by the tower and the two little hangar bays there. And now we're throttling back up and trying to get to altitude, because I don't want to be this low in the atmosphere when flying towards the North Pole. As you can see here, I turned north once I realized that the pyramids aren't a viable option because they're at nighttime, and started my climb. I wanted to be at a cruising altitude of between 10 and 11 kilometers, because as you can see on the right, when you look at the delta V status, the time of my engines goes up as the thrust and the fuel flow goes down. Because we get higher into the atmosphere, the engines don't take that much atmosphere, and that way it's more efficient. That's also the main reason why normal ships, normal passenger flights fly at a high altitude, because it's more fuel efficient. And there we go. I found this nice little mountain range here and decided this was at about the half time. I found this mountain range and decided to do a little bit of stunt flying inside of it. Not very much, because this plane is very stable but not very maneuverable, as you can see here. But it works a little bit. So let's brush over the top of the mountain here upside down, and then try to cruise alongside this wall of the mountain. Those are very big mountains. I'm at 5,300 meters, and I'm not even at the top, so they could be up to 5,700 or 6,000 meters high. That's very high for a planet that's only 1/10 the size of our Earth and should be Earth, because I believe that Mount Everest was something around 7,000, wasn't it? I believe. I'm not quite sure. Not so good with Earth geographics, but this is very, very high, and we've got a nice cloud bank here. So we flew a little bit inside this mountain range, and after I exited it here and there were no more nice mountains to fly by, I decided to accelerate again And after this little dive here, there we go, I got up to speed again and decided to get up to cruising altitude again, so we can then visit the North Pole here. And now we're over the North Pole. We're at a coordinate of 75 degrees north, as you can see on the bottom right. And I'm trying to make my descent here towards the surface. As you can see, we're still very fast for a plane to land. I should land at this plane something around 100 or a little below 100 meters per second. So I just decided to go between 10 and 20 meters over the surface here, as you can see, and just bleed off some speed. And this took a very long time. The engines are basically on idle, so they're not providing any thrust, but this thing just is too streamlined and too fast to slow down good enough. So I could do some turns to slow myself down some more, but I had enough time and enough space left to get to the real North Pole, or to get my coordinates more north to do this here. I made 2 quick little turns now to get below 100 meters and then tried to land this thing as gracefully as possible. Didn't work out perfectly, but we landed here and then started braking. And as you can see, I've got the brakes turned on fully now, and this is 4 times time acceleration, so it took a very long time to slow this thing down. So this won't be able to land on the runway again. So I'm gonna need to maybe make some other arrangement on how to land this when we get back to the space center. Now I got Jebediah out to do some science and plant a flag for the first polar expedition on his own planet. I don't think he would need his suit and the helmet for now, but as you know, the Kerbals, they nearly always put on their helmets. And the site, of course, is called in tradition First Kerbin Polar Expedition. And the plaque text is, of course, when we were here. There you have it. Jeb was here on the 26/04/2016. That's done, and now get myself back into the capsule. Basically, first get on top, take the science out of the experiments so I can replace them, and then try to get into the hatch. This was very difficult. I needed to grab on from the bottom here, and then I could go inside of it. And I'm gonna keep Jebediah on the North Pole for some while and look after our little moon scanner here. So we're back with this little satellite here that just entered the sphere of influence of the moon and is now burning to get its periaps down to what we need for our contracts. That's between 408 and 402 kilometers. Okay, so we're gonna burn here to get the periaps down from 820 down to between 408 and 402. The only problem I see at the moment, my inclination is 180, so I'm gonna need to address that also. I encountered the moon in a way that I would go into an equatorial orbit, but for scanning this is the worst, so I mucked around with the maneuver node here a little bit to get towards a polar orbit. There we go. We have to burn normal and radial a little bit, nothing prograde, and then just execute this burn to get ourselves into a polar orbit and to get the inclination down to between 84.9 and 85.5 kilometers. In doing so, as you can see, my periaps is rising now, so my periapse will be rising too much, so I need to adjust for that also in a little while. And there we go, keep on burning to get to the right position. Inclination is not right, so forget the periapse now for now that it's rising, and get the inclination right. So I'm gonna burn like this a little bit more, and I've got way more delta V than I need, so this works fine. There we go, the inclination is done. Now I can close the maneuver and do some burning here, so I get my periapse back down the way it was supposed to be. There we go, we're down 406, that works perfectly. And now we only need to wait 2 periapse and then burn to get into a nice little orbit here. There we have it, we're in orbit. Now we need our apoapse, periapse and eccentricity to all be the right way. Because I've only got one satellite back at Kerbin that can communicate with me, I haven't got a full coverage of the planet. Sometimes I'm out of communications range, so I needed to keep that in mind for my calculations. But here we go. I've got my orbit right. Now I can start the multispectral scan and the altimeter scan and open the planetary map and start scanning this planetoid here. Whoa, there was a little graphics glitch again. But now we are scanning the planet. Another graphics glitch. I hope to get rid of them soon. Okay, we're in ideal space to scan this, and now we only need time to scan. And we're gonna go back to this probe and back to Jebediah on the North Pole in the next episode. Thanks for watching this episode of Kerbal Space Program. If you liked it, as always, be sure to leave a comment or click that like button. And if you never want to miss an episode again, be sure to subscribe. I hope I see you guys next time.